Welcome to Twitch Tales, everybody. Anybody who's new to us, let me explain what this is. This is an interactive D&D campaign where I'm the DM and you guys are the player. Player singular, because there is only one character that you are playing as, Ep55. Apis is a Hill Dwarf Ranger. As for the story so far, let me give you a little bit of a recap. The story began with Apis as a ranger outlander out in the wilderness, realizing that their bedroll needed patching up and their clothes were getting a bit tatty and they were running low on rations. And so, as much as they like to live on the land, they should head back into a town and pick up some supplies. The closest town to where they were in the north west of the island that they're on, Corintiel. The closest town was a small frontier town called Shadridge, a population of only about 100 people or so. So Apis went into Shadridge and they met up with the baker friend of theirs, and they met up with a bunch of the shopkeepers and stuff, tavern owner, and very quickly learned that there was a problem with the mead coming in from the nearby apiarist. So they went to check that out and found that there was a goblin problem. In investigating the goblin problem, they managed to slaughter a whole bunch of goblins and stop them from harassing and kidnapping and killing the members of the town. And while they were there, they also found that there were some elven villagers in the nearby woods, and they helped the elves rebuild after they were attacked by the goblins, and they helped them with some farming and things. Eventually they went back to Shadridge and found that in their absence from Shadridge, there was a problem with a necromancer who was raising shadows from people after they died. They were stealing their shadows and turning them into necromantic undead creatures that would then go on to kill other people and steal their shadows, and was slowly growing a shadow army. Thankfully, before the shadow army got too large, Apis managed to track them down and drive them out of town. And Sally, the necromancer, ran off into the forest to not be seen again yet. Then, once the troubles of Shadridge were over, the Knights of Kavosna, the local law enforcement faction, gave Apis a letter to take to the next nearest established town, a town called Fondurg, about a population of 1,000 or so, and gave Apis a letter and said, take it off to Fondurg and let them know what's happened here, the goblin troubles and the necromancer troubles, see if they can send any help or any supplies or whatever to help us out. So Apis went off on a little messenger run, and on the way found that there were some bandits on the road that were working for a manticore. Apis killed one of the bandits, and the manticore set the other bandits free, and then headed off to Fondurg. They went back to Shadridge first to let them know that there were bandits and whatnot and take the supplies back. And then while they were in Shadridge, they also caught a Sasquatch and put it in a pit, and that was a whole thing. Then they went off to Fondurg, and on the way to Fondurg, they encountered some half-dragon creatures. Half-dragon rats and half-dragon squirrels. After killing these creatures, they took them to the town of Fondurg and said, hey, what's the deal with these things? Should you guys be aware of this? And the people of Fondurg were like, ooh, that doesn't look good. Half-dragon creatures usually means there's a full dragon in the area that's doing the deed with some beasts. So we should be aware of that. And then sure enough, after a couple of days, boom, lands a green dragon right outside the town of Fondurg saying, you've killed my children. Send out your champion to meet my demands. And then they sent out one of the Knights of Kavosna, who was immediately ambushed and killed by the dragon and his offspring. And so thus began the current arc that we're in. So Apis went off with help from a druid called Briar and their giant bee companion called Mel. And they went off into the forest, stealthing and searching for the dragon's lair. They found it in the worst way possible, by falling into the dragon's trap and being captured and taken to the lair. They had their weapons taken off of them, and they were put inside of a large vegetative dome that encompassed an old wood elf village up in the trees. And then Apis began their very slow journey to escape. They started asking around the people of the town who there was there and getting to know them a bit. Then they went out into the local forest often to forage and sort of check out what's in the area. They found that there's some undead nearby in the area to the west of the dome. What happened to Mel when we were captured was that she was sent off. She was allowed to leave because they didn't see her as a threat, but they didn't know that she could speak Sylvan. So she took your message back to the town of Fonderg and relayed to the town that you'd been captured and the rough direction to where you were captured. So she escaped and took the message back. As did Briar. Briar, having been captured, turned into an animal, being that she's a druid, she can wild shape. She turned into an animal and managed to escape through the forest and get back to the town of Fonderg, or so you believe. You investigated the undead in the area because the dragon Lucifreak didn't seem to like them, and so you maybe thought the enemy of my enemy and all that. But you discovered that was potentially not a good idea when the necromancer in charge of the undead warned you to stay away and then attacked you. So you thought maybe he's not an ally after all. You discovered a portal to another plane of existence, to the plane of air specifically, and in investigating it you pissed off the dragon because he thought you were trying to escape. He gave you your last warning and said, if you ever lie to me again, I will kill you. You went back to the dome, back and forth from the dome, foraging over the next couple of days until a fellow captive, a half-elf known as Charlie, he exposition dumped on you all that he had learned in his time there, the guards' patterns and how they fight and all sorts of things. And he explained his plan for escape, or rather he put into action his plan for escape by punching one of the guards. He punched one of the guards, which set off the hunt. When somebody steps out of line too much in this dragon's lair, they are set free into the forest, and then the dragon gets to hunt them. And so this is what happened. The dragon, trying to train you up and test your loyalties, took you with him on the hunt, and you got to Charlie first. You managed to make a plan with Charlie, and then when one of the Dragonborn, one of the guards of the dragon, managed to catch up to you, you both turned around and ambushed her and managed to defeat her in a fight. You burned down her body as well, along with a lot of the forest, and ran back to the dome, the giant vegetative dome. On your way back, you were running and looking over your shoulder as if Charlie was chasing you. That was the plan that you came up with to hide what you'd done. To make it look like Charlie had been the one to kill Enola, the Dragonborn, and chase you back to the dome. And then as you got back to the dome, you managed to force your way in through the vegetative briar patch wall, essentially about 10-foot wall of very scratchy thorns, by using your bedroll to kind of push your way in. A bedroll you'd only bought about a month back in Shadridge, and now you've completely shredded it on thorns. But at least it saved you some of the damage you would have taken. You pushed your way through into the interior of the dome and found it was pitch black. All of the elven lanterns were not lit. You did a little careful exploring and found that there were no sign of the Dragonborn guards that were meant to be here. You climbed the rope ladder up to the mezzanine sort of treehouse village, and when you got up there you found the rest of the elves, the captive elves, huddled around the mess hall, coming up with their story for what had happened. They had attacked and killed the two remaining guards, so all three of the Dragonborn guards are now dead, apparently. And they were getting their story straight, so that when Lucifreak comes back and finds that out, he will not be happy, but he won't take it out on the elves, hopefully, if they all have their story straight. They explained to you what the story was, that the two elves had defected and run away from Lucifreak's employ, thinking that they could make it on their own, hoping to play into Luciferique's anger at betrayal. He hates people. He hates people challenging his authority, and so they're hoping to make it sound like these Dragonborn challenging his authority and disobeying his commands and run away. And hopefully he'll be angry enough at the Dragonborn that he will overlook any discrepancies in their stories. That's where we left off, with Apis sort of getting this story from them and going to sleep in the meditative hall. But just as they were sort of laying out their bed, the dome opened and Luciferique came home screaming about what the hell is going on here. So right before you've had a long rest, you're pretty much, I think you're all out of spell slots, you're all out of anything that re-rolls during the day, you're pretty much out of anything that charges up, and you've got a few arrows at your disposal. So if a fight breaks out now, you are at a severe disadvantage. But if you can persuade Luciferique to hold off or piss off for a few hours, then you can get a rest and get all your stuff back. So that was a big old recap